Hi friends, in this video we are discussing ophthalmic physiology. It involves a certain amount of optics of vision as well. It's about the errors of refraction. Before we actually discuss those errors of refraction, let's go through some basic points first. What is a refraction? Very easy. When the light rays traveling from one medium, they enter another medium, there is refraction of the light rays. There is bending of the light rays, which is called as refraction. So, when we are looking at an object, the light rays coming from such an object, while they are entering the eye, at four places there is refraction of the light rays. And finally, they form an image on the retina. And then that image, the signals about that image are carried by the second cranial nerve. When it reaches the occipital lobe, visual cortex, we are able to see the object. And we are able to see the object clearly when the image exactly forms on the retina. So that's the basic about the refraction of the eye in the eyes. Now, what is a distant object? An object which is at 6 meters or beyond 6 meters from the eye, up to infinity, from the eyes 6 meters or anywhere beyond 6 meters up to infinity. Such an object is called as distant object. And the object which is within 6 meters from the eye, it's called as the near object. What's with the boundary of this 6 meters? The boundary is because it is observed that when the object is at a 6 meters distance or beyond 6 meters, for any such object, the parallel rays coming from that object, when they enter the eye, they automatically converge and automatically focus on the retina. Image is automatically formed on the retina without any changes happening in the eye. Changes of accommodation. So, not needed. If the object is placed at 6 meters, we can automatically see that object without any changes occurring in the eye. If the object is at 6 meters or beyond 6 meters from the eye, up to infinity, infinite distance. Right. But if the object comes within 6 meters, now we would be calling it near object. Because the light rays coming from such an object which is within 6 meters, the image will not automatically focus on the retina. The image will start forming beyond the retina. Let's just try to understand what's happening here. There is an object at 6 meters distance or anywhere beyond 6 meters up to infinity. The light rays coming from such an object, they will automatically focus on the retina. This is just a diagrammatic representation because let me just add here that the light rays, they are going to form an inverted image of an object on the retina. But just to have a simplistic model, simplistic design to understand the refraction, for now we will draw it like this. The image automatically formed on the retina for an object which is at 6 meters or beyond 6 meters from the eye, anywhere beyond 6 meters. But when the object starts coming closer and closer, first of all, the rays are going to be divergent rays, and when they enter the eye, they are going to form the image beyond the retina. And therefore, to look at such an object, to see that object clearly, to focus its image on the retina, certain changes have to be made in the eye, and those changes are called as the changes of accommodation. It's called as accommodation reaction. One important change that you must remember is increased curvature of the lens. Increased curvature, increased refractive power of the lens, which is the main change in the accommodation. Right. So that's the boundary of 6 meters. far point or far vision anywhere beyond 6 meters, near vision if the object is within 6 meters from the eye, and this is the reason for it. Let's also try to understand what is a near vision or near point of vision rather. Near point of vision, also called as punctum proximum. Punctum proximum. It is the closest distance from the eye at which an object can be seen clearly. Closest distance from the eye. It means that if the object comes closer than that, then the object will not be seen clearly. Its image will not be formed on the retina. So, near point means that nearest point from the eyes at which if the object is placed, its image will focus on the retina by the strongest accommodation changes in the eye, and therefore such an object can be seen clearly. If the object comes closer than that, image will not form on the retina, it will be blurred. So that's called as near point of vision. Generally, it's in the range of 7 centimeters to 40 centimeters from the eyes. That's a normal range for the near point of vision. And it's called as punctum proximum. The far point, which is the infinity, is called as punctum remotum. Punctum remotum is the far point of vision. Right. Let's also now define error of refraction. Look, a normal eye, an eye with a normal refractive power is called as emmetropic eye. Emmetropic eye is the one which has normal refractive power. It forms image on the retina, whereas the eye with a refractive error, and because of the refractive error, image does not automatically form on the retina, it's called as ametropic eye. So, at the very basic, let's understand we are talking about the ametropia, error of refraction, ametropic eye. Having error of refraction, the image does not form on the retina. Right. Whereas the normal eye with the normal refractive strength or normal refraction is called as emmetropia, emmetropic eye. Okay, so here is a diagrammatic depiction of the object and its image formed on the retina. One must understand that the image is formed in an inverted fashion. It's the inverted image which is formed on the retina. So, the light rays coming from the upper part of the object, light rays coming from the upper levels or upper quadrant of vision, they fall on the lower retina. The light rays coming from the lower quadrant of vision, they will fall on the upper retina. That's how the crossing of the light rays occurs, and their image is inverted actually on the retina. This is a simplistic model for us to understand the refraction. Therefore, this I have drawn to explain the focusing of light rays on the retina, how it happens, or how the errors of refraction will not allow this to happen. Right. Now let's, with this background, let's understand various errors of refraction. Now, normal refraction of the light rays and image formation on the retina, it depends on three factors. One, the anteroposterior length of the eyeball. Two, the curvature of the cornea and the lens. And three, the refractive indices of the refractive media of the eyeball. So, there would be an error of refraction and image will not form on the retina and the object will not be seen clearly if any of these three is defective. So remember, these three are the factors which we always would consider when we understand the errors of refraction. The anterior-posterior length of the eyeball, the curvature of the cornea and the lens, and the refractive indices of the refractive media of the eyeball. Any of these gets altered and there would be error of refraction. And therefore, the errors of refraction would also be of three types. I have already mentioned that the error of refraction is called as ametropia, and the ametropia will be of one of these three types. First, the axial ametropia. Axial ametropia. What is axial ametropia? Error due to the abnormal length of the eyeball. Let's just have a quick example of this axial ametropia. Let's say here is a normal eyeball and look at the anterior-posterior length. So, the image formation is happening on the retina, an inverted image formed on the retina. Now, if the anterior-posterior diameter of the eyeball is altered, what do you observe here? Anterior-posterior length of the eyeball has increased, and therefore, what's going to happen now is image formation will happen in front of the retina, right? So, this is called as axial ametropia, the error of refraction due to the altered anterior-posterior length or abnormal length of the eyeball. Then, second type, curvature ametropia. As I mentioned, if the curvature of the cornea or lens becomes abnormal or is altered, it will be called as curvature ametropia. And the third one is index ametropia, abnormal refractive index of the refractive media in the eyeball. So, three types of refractive errors basically, what are the three causes or three reasons by which refractive errors occur and image does not form on the retina? Axial ametropia, curvature ametropia, index ametropia. Let me just add here, what is asthenopia? Asthenopia is symptoms of ametropia, symptoms caused by the error of refraction. Blurring of vision, eye pain, headache are some of the symptoms, and it's called as asthenopia. How do we investigate an error of refraction? Well, there are various methods in ophthalmology. Snellen's chart is one, of course. Most of you must have encountered the Snellen's chart. There is one video which I have uploaded, how to read the Snellen's chart, or rather what is the basis of Snellen's chart. Then ophthalmoscopy, retinoscopy are some of the elite type of investigations. Now, let us, with that in mind, let's discuss the actual errors of refraction. First, myopia. Myopia is short-sightedness. Well, short-sightedness is a term which we often use in our general discussion also. We don't want to be short-sighted in our lives. However, short-sightedness means a person can see the near objects clearly, but the far objects cannot be seen clearly. Remember, we have already made a distinction: near object within 6 meters, far object beyond 6 meters. Right, so far objects cannot be seen clearly, nearby objects can be seen clearly. So, image of the distant object does not form on the retina, but it forms in front of the retina. image of the far objects does not form on the retina, but it is formed in front of the retina. We had already shown one such defect in the previous diagram. So myopia, let's say this is a normal eyeball, distant object, this is just a diagrammatic representation, image formation on the retina. These are the light rays which have, after refraction, they have one point of focus and they form the image on the retina. What about myopia? Myopia will be something like this. Antero-posterior diameter of the eyeball. If this was the normal antero-posterior diameter, here the antero-posterior length or antero-posterior diameter of the eyeball has increased, and therefore image will form in front of the retina, image of the far objects, and therefore the far objects will cannot be seen clearly. Now let us understand, already we have seen that there are three types of errors of refraction. Yeah, three reasons or three causes that the error occurs. So three types of myopia would be: A, the axial myopia, which we had drawn just now. Increase in the antero-posterior length of the eyeball. This is the most common, mind you, this is the most common, axial myopia. So, as we had already drawn. Second, curvature myopia. Now in this there is increased curvature of the refractive media, cornea or lens. And the third one, index myopia, increased refractive index of the nucleus of the lens. Example, as occurs in the case of nuclear sclerosis. So these are the three types: axial myopia, curvature myopia and index myopia. Okay, now remember, forward displacement of the lens may also cause myopia. Okay, so I am just taking a leap forward for hypermetropia. How are you going to compare this with myopia? Just remember, myopia, short-sightedness, image forms in front of the retina. Hypermetropia is going to be far-sightedness or long-sightedness, image forms beyond the retina or behind the retina. Forward displacement of the lens may also cause myopia. Backward displacement of the lens may also cause hypermetropia. Just I took a fast forward route to compare myopia and hypermetropia so that it can be clearly distinguished. Okay, myopia is rare at birth. Only about 5% newborn children have myopia. 80% or more children are born with hypermetropia, as we will see. Now there is one more term that I want to introduce: pseudomyopia. Pseudomyopia sometimes occurs with spasm of the ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles, they hold the lens in place by virtue of the suspensory ligaments. Now if ciliary muscles go into spasm, and it is called as spasm accommodation. Looking at the near object, the ciliary muscles have gone into spasm. So spasm accommodation. This is called as pseudomyopia. What happens is, because the lens is unable to change its curvature for some time, ciliary muscles have gone into spasm. So now they cannot relax for some time, and therefore lens cannot change its refractive index for some time. Therefore, the person was seeing the near object and only near objects can be seen clearly. It will be a short-sightedness, but pseudo type of short-sightedness, of course. There is no permanent alteration as such in the refractive indices. So, that's called as pseudomyopia. Okay, just one more additional feature. Clinically, myopia can be categorized as simple or progressive. Progressive may be hereditary. So progressive means the vision goes on getting deteriorated. So it's a progressive myopia. Now coming to the correction of these of this particular error. Of course, concave lens. You know, there are two types of lenses. This is again basic. Concave lens, which is denoted by the minus sign. Convex lens, which is used by the plus sign. For myopia, we are going to use the concave lens. Let's just quickly draw it here. Here is the myopic eye. Image formation is happening in front of the retina, and therefore correction would be the biconcave lens. The concave lens placed, a concave lens of the suitable strength, suitable power is placed in front of the eye. And as you are aware, concave lens will cause divergence of the rays. The light rays will diverge, and then when they enter the eye and converge and focus on the retina, the image will start forming on the retina again. So this is just a diagrammatic representation. The point is that there will be divergence of the light rays by the concave lens, and then they will converge. So they will go a certain distance and meet on the retina. So that's the correction for myopia. Apart from the lens, there is a surgical treatment also available. In old times, the surgical procedure was radial keratotomy, the age-old procedure, and now with the recent advancements, the LASIK is used. Most of you must be aware of it. The LASIK is laser assisted in situ keratomyolysis. That's LASIK. Very commonly performed these days, the LASIK. Somebody has glasses with high power. They go for this kind of treatment, LASIK. The laser surgery. Now, either it is radial keratotomy. Radial keratotomy. Keratos is cornea. So, whether it's radial keratotomy, in which radial incisions are made on the cornea, and then its curvature is altered, or whether it's LASIK, principle for both is the same. Curvature of the cornea is altered. In both these surgical treatments, the curvature of the cornea is decreased actually, so that the light rays after refraction, they will travel farther. Curvature of the cornea is decreased. Remember, in both these procedures. So here is the normal eye, the emmetropic eye, image formation on the retina. Then the myopic eye, image forms in front of the retina because anterior-posterior length of the eyeball has increased, and the correction is by the concave lens placed. So there is divergence of the light rays. Going to the next one, the hypermetropia. Hypermetropia, also called as farsightedness or long-sightedness. So, far objects can be seen clearly, but near objects cannot be seen clearly. And we have already defined far and near objects. So, for near objects, with accommodation at rest, the parallel rays coming from an object are focused behind the retina. I already mentioned it. For myopia, the light rays focus in front of the retina, where image is formed there in front of the retina. For hypermetropia, the image forms behind the retina, beyond the retina. Okay, again 3 types. We are already aware of this. The axial hypermetropia, the curvature hypermetropia, and the index hypermetropia. Right, axial hypermetropia is the most common. Make a note of it. 80% children which are born, 80% children born are born with axial hypermetropia. So remember this. Anteroposterior length of the eyeball is short. So what happens is image forms beyond the retina. Let's have a quick diagram to understand this as well. Here is a normal eyeball. Image forms on the retina for a normal eye, and then when the anteroposterior length of the eyeball is decreased, image formation will occur behind the retina. So this is the anteroposterior length, this is the cornea. Right, so that's axial hypermetropia, and this happens with the near objects. Far objects can be seen clearly, but near objects, the image forms behind the retina. Okay, so the other 2 types, curvature hypermetropia, curvature of the cornea or lens is decreased, and therefore light rays travel a greater distance to form the image. The point of focus will be farther, and therefore image formation will occur beyond the retina. Index hypermetropia, the low refractive index of the cornea or the lens. And as I mentioned, hypermetropia may also develop if the lens is displaced backward. Okay, so just remember it as a factual point. Myopia may happen if the lens in the eye is displaced forward. Hypermetropia is likely to happen when the lens in the eye is displaced backward. And also, of course, image formation in myopia in front of the retina, hypermetropia behind the retina, image formation. Okay, aphakia. What is aphakia? Aphakic eye is the one in which lens is absent. Absence of the crystalline lens inside the eye. If that is absent, it's called as aphakic eye. And the aphakia will also obviously result in hypermetropia, because lens, the convex crystalline lens inside the eye, it causes convergence of the light rays so that image forms on the retina. But if the lens is missing, the lens has been removed surgically, then that eye is the aphakic eye, and there would be hypermetropia. I've already mentioned that 80% children are born with axial hypermetropia. The length of the eyeball is short, and therefore axial hypermetropia at birth is very common. And then as the skull grows, I mean as the facial bones grow and the eye also grows, by the time of adolescence it will be completely taken care of. It will the vision will be completely normal. So but remember, 80% children are born with axial hypermetropia. Well, this is a diagrammatic representation. A normal eye where image formed on the retina, and then the hypermetropic eye, image forms behind the retina. For which objects? For the objects which are near objects. Okay, for them the image forms behind the retina, and the correction is by convex lens or plus lens. Convex lens is denoted as plus lens. So placing the convex lens of a suitable strength or power is placed in front of the eye. That's the treatment, because then convex lens will cause convergence of the light rays, then they will enter the eye and further converge, so that the image which was going beyond the retina will now start forming on the retina. So that's the treatment of hypermetropia. Let me just add 2 or 3 points here. What is manifest hypermetropia? The degree of hypermetropia that is detected without paralyzing accommodation. I mean, don't instill any drugs into the eye, do not paralyze the accommodation of the individual, and check the vision. The person is having hypermetropia, and this will be called as manifest hypermetropia. It's being manifested clinically, it's being detected clinically, but without paralyzing the accommodation. And what is total hypermetropia? The degree of hypermetropia that is detected after paralyzing the accommodation. Look, accommodation is for the sake of near vision. Now you paralyze the accommodation completely, so near vision will be in problem, and then such hypermetropia would be called as total hypermetropia. So manifest hypermetropia, which is clinically seen without paralyzing the accommodation, then instill the drug in the eye to paralyze the accommodation, and then the degree of hypermetropia will be called as total hypermetropia, and the difference between the two is called as latent hypermetropia. Look, why do we need to paralyze the accommodation? Because accommodation is causing the changes in the eye to see the near objects. Here we are discussing that the near objects cannot be seen clearly, and therefore with accommodation and without accommodation, how much is the difference that the person cannot see the near objects, up to what distance? That differentiation is made by these definitions: manifest hypermetropia, total hypermetropia, and the difference between the two, the latent hypermetropia. Correction of the hypermetropia, as I mentioned, by the convex lens or plus lens, which causes convergence of the light rays. Right, now coming to the third one. The third error of refraction is presbyopia. I remember in my final year medical education, just to remember these errors of refraction, our professor was telling us, how will you remember these? Because very often the students tend to confuse. Myopia means short-sightedness, means the person can see the near objects or can't see the near objects. Hypermetropia means person can see the far objects or not see the far objects. So to avoid the confusion, there was a very simple way that our professor told us. Look, myopia is my Pia. Pia is someone who is beloved in Hindi language. So myopia, remember it like my Pia, means Pia is nearby and can be seen clearly. Hypermetropia is high Pia. Pia is at a distance and so you can see the distant Pia clearly. So distant vision is normal, near vision is affected. And presbyopia is bipia, bye in that sense. So after a certain age, after the age of 40, there is loss of power of accommodation, and that is our third error of refraction, presbyopia. So this is the error of refraction which appears after the age of 40 years. So it may be considered even physiological, because generally what happens is the lens proteins they coagulate, and therefore lens, crystalline lens inside the eye loses its flexibility. So its ability to increase its refractive power is now limited. The lens loses the elasticity, and therefore this reduces the power of accommodation of the eye. You know, in the beginning I mentioned this. What is accommodation? The changes in the eye that happen to see the near objects. And what is the main change of accommodation? Increase in the curvature of the lens. Now imagine that the lens protein is hardened and therefore lens is not able to increase its curvature to a normal extent. What will happen? The ability to see the near objects will be diminished. So you will often see that near point of vision, we have defined near point as the closest point which can be seen clearly. This near point of vision recedes from the eye. It goes away from the eye. You will often see that elderly people in the households, they will put the reading newspaper away from the eyes, not at a normal distance, but at certain greater distance away from the eyes in order to read the newspaper, because the near point of vision starts going away from the eye. Near point recedes from the eye. Normal mentioned, I had mentioned it is 30-40 centimeters. If it goes beyond that, I mean the object can be seen clearly only at 45 centimeters, 50 centimeters, 60 centimeters. If it comes closer than that, it can't be seen clearly because lens cannot increase the curvature. Okay, the presbyopia, yeah, this is important. Note this point. Presbyopia manifests earlier in the hypermetropic individuals and at a later age in the case of myopic individuals. Yeah, what's the reason? Reason is very obvious, because myopes can see the nearby objects clearly anyways, and therefore, and what is the defect in presbyopia? The near point is going away from the eye. Near objects cannot be seen clearly. So the presbyopia will manifest at an earlier stage if the person was suffering from hypermetropia in his or her life. And in myopic individuals, it will appear at a later age or later stage in life. Right. Just adding another important point, or rather an additional feature. There is something called as second sight in the elderly. Second sight in the elderly. What is it? Look, sometimes in elderly individuals, there is a sudden improvement in their vision. Sudden improvement in the vision. Now, because of the improvement, they may not require even the glasses which they have been using. This is called as the second sight in the elderly. This happens during, let's say, early stages of cataract. In the early stages of cataract, there is temporary improvement in the vision, especially for the close-up reading. So, person can read without glasses. This is the temporary increase because of a temporary increase in the refractive index of the lens. You know, in the early stages of a cataract, this is possible that there is a temporary increase in the refractive index of the lens, and therefore a sudden but short-lived improvement in the sight. Eventually the vision is going to deteriorate, but this is called as second sight in the elderly. Correction of presbyopia, it's by bifocal lens. Bifocal lens means, suppose there was myopia or hypermetropia, so correction will be required for that. And then there is presbyopia, which is now after the age of 40, the loss of power of accommodation and near point is going away. You have to correct that also. So lens for the correction of original error of refraction, which may have been there, and for the near vision because of this presbyopia or loss of power of accommodation. So bifocal lens is used for correction of presbyopia. Let's take the next error of refraction, that's astigmatism. astigmatism is also fairly commonly seen. What is astigmatism? When the refractive power of the two different meridians, we are talking about the refractive surface, the cornea, let's say. When the refractive power of the two different meridians, that is vertical and horizontal meridian of the eye, is the same, then the light rays after refraction, they will be focused at a single point. Let me just draw this and have a simplistic design to understand the astigmatism. Here is the uniform curvature of the cornea. What will happen? The two parallel rays, when there is refraction of these two parallel rays falling on the cornea, their refraction will happen with the same strength, and therefore they will meet at one point. The bending of the light rays is with the equal intensity because of the uniform curvature of the cornea. I am using layman's terms to explain this. So, their refraction occurs equally, equal bending, and therefore finally they have a single point of focus. This is the normal vision. Now, what happens in astigmatic eye? Well, very commonly it is described as egg-shaped cornea or lens. It can be for the cornea or it can be for the crystalline lens. Egg-shaped cornea. You can imagine, egg-shaped. So, let's say something like this. Egg-shaped cornea or lens. What you can see here is cornea has a shape which has two different refractive powers in two meridians. See, this has a lesser curvature and this has a greater curvature. This is, I am just trying to explain in simplistic terms that there are two different curvature with different refractive indices. So, what is going to happen here is when the light rays, they fall on these two curvatures, see what is going to happen. This has a lesser curvature, so refraction will happen like this, and this has a greater power, this is a greater curvature compared to the other one, so refraction will be like this. So, the parallel rays falling on the cornea, they will never have a single point of focus, and therefore image will be always blurred. Image formation can never happen on the retina, there will be always the blurred image. So, that is why very commonly described as the egg-shaped cornea, or even this can happen with lens. So, that's basically the defect in astigmatism. Unequal refractive power in different meridians. Hence, the incident light rays never focus at a single point on the retina, as I described just now. The vision is distorted or indistinct. And as I mentioned, astigmatism of mild degree is almost physiological. So, cornea or lens, either of them can be defective in this particular condition. Astigmatism occurs usually from irregular curvature of the cornea. It may also be due to defective or tilted lens. Just to have a recap, do you remember myopia, lens displaced forward, hypermetropia, lens displaced backward, and now astigmatism, tilted lens may result in this type of error of refraction. And egg-shaped cornea, as I mentioned already, this is how the light rays will show the refraction. There will be no single point of focus. Image will be blurred. Okay, now astigmatism can be myopic, hypermetropic or mixed. Yeah, we have said that refraction does not happen, but then there can be an additional error of refraction along with this. So, it can be myopic or it can be hypermetropic a problem, or it can be mixed also. Astigmatism is divided into two broad categories: regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. When the meridians of the maximum and minimum refractions are at right angles to each other, we've already seen there are two different meridians with two different refractive indices. Okay, so the meridians of maximum and minimum refractions are at right angles to each other. It's called regular astigmatism. If the vertical meridian of the corneal surface is more curved than the horizontal meridian, we call it regular astigmatism according to rule. These are the terminologies to describe various types of astigmatism. So let me just say again, if the vertical meridian of the corneal surface is more curved than the horizontal meridian, it will be termed regular astigmatism according to rule. And if the reverse is there, then it's called as regular astigmatism against the rule. So astigmatism can be either regular or irregular. In regular astigmatism, it will be according to rule or against rule. When one meridian is ametropic, means with normal error of refraction, with normal refraction. When one meridian is with normal refraction and the other meridian is myopic or hypermetropic. Yes, this can happen. There are two meridians. One is having a normal refraction, so it's going to focus the light ray on the retina. But the other meridian is either myopic or hypermetropic, means that light ray bending will happen either in front of the retina or behind the retina. We have seen those two light rays which are having different refraction. So, it's called simple myopic or simple hypermetropic astigmatism. I repeat once again, there are two meridians we have shown. If they have the same uniform curvature, then it will be normal eye. But if it is an egg-shaped cornea, two different curvatures, then suppose one meridian is normal and the other one is defective, myopic or hypermetropic, then it's called as simple myopic or simple hypermetropic astigmatism respectively. When both meridians are myopic or hypermetropic, I mean, imagine that there were two meridians and we had shown two parallel rays falling on them. Suppose both of them are irregular surfaces. So when both meridians are myopic or hypermetropic but of different degrees, again, okay, they are going to have different degrees of refraction, both the meridians, then it's called as compound myopic or compound hypermetropic, means both. Let's just draw it here. Here is a cornea with two different refractive indices, I mean two meridians having two different refractive indices, and these light rays both are falling in front of the retina. Let's say this is the retina. Both light rays are having their focal length, that those refractive surfaces have the focal length in front of the retina. So that's one condition. When both meridians are myopic, as I have drawn just now, or both are hypermetropic but with different degrees, as I mentioned. different degrees of myopia in both meridians. It's called as compound myopic or compound hypermetropic astigmatism respectively. And when one meridian is myopic and the other one is hypermetropic, then it is termed mixed astigmatism. So, this is just a terminology to describe the different types of astigmatism. It can happen in certain conditions like keratoconus. Keratos means cornea. So, conical shaped cornea is called as keratoconus. Or suppose uneven bulging of the cornea, there was injury to the cornea, ulceration of the cornea, all these conditions may lead to the astigmatism with irregular surface of the cornea and therefore such type of refractive error. How is astigmatism tested? It's by astigmatic dial or Lancaster-Regan chart. Astigmatic dial or Lancaster-Regan chart. You can see the lines, those lines, a normal eye will be seen, will see all those lines with equal distinctiveness. If the curvature of the cornea is normal, all those lines in this astigmatic dial will be seen with equal distinctiveness. If it's an astigmatism, then the lines, some of the lines will be seen more distinctly, other lines will be less distinct. So, that will be a diagnostic feature of astigmatism. Correction of astigmatism. A spherical lens is used for correction of the vision in one meridian and cylindrical lens is used for correction in the other meridian. Please remember the lenses that we have mentioned so far, the concave lens, the convex lens, they are spherical lenses. The other type of lens is of course cylindrical lens. So, how do you correct astigmatism? There are two meridians which we are going to correct. In one meridian, you will use the spherical lens of the appropriate power, and in the remaining meridian, the cylindrical lens will be used. So, spherical lens and cylindrical lens used for astigmatism correction. Now, finally, we will just add a few more points in this particular discussion. Anisometropia. What is anisometropia? In this condition, the two eyes have different states of refraction. Different states of refraction of the two eyes. Okay, that's called as anisometropia. Normally, we would expect that both eyes have the same either normal refraction or some error of refraction, but the same one in both eyes. But if the two eyes have different states of refraction, it's called as anisometropia. When the size of the retinal images is different in the two eyes, note this point. Retinal images, they are of the same size. Obviously, they have to be. But if there is a difference in their sizes, the condition is called as aniseikonia. Anisoconia. So, anisometropia, when two eyes have different refractive states, and if the two retinae have different sizes of the images, one object being observed, images formed on the two retina, the sizes are different, that's called as aniseikonia. The anisometropia leads to this later condition, aniseikonia, because two eyes have different states of refraction, therefore image size will be different on in the two eyes. Up to 5% difference can be tolerated. Up to 5% difference in the size of the retinal images in both eyes, in two eyes, that can be tolerated, not more than that. So, and just one last point, anisoconia can be determined by the instrument called as econometer. This is all very specific to the ophthalmic science and the optics. So, let's just go through the last point and we will end the topic here. Use of the glasses. These are the conventional glasses, and as opposed to that, there can be use of contact lenses. So, what is more beneficial or less beneficial, and so on. So, let's just see the difference between these two types of glasses. Conventional glasses are placed at a distance of 15 millimeters from the cornea. Now, basically, what are the disadvantages of these conventional glasses? First of all, since the glasses are at a distance from the cornea, the light rays will enter the glasses. Then, because there is a distance between the glass and the cornea, there will be an additional refraction of light rays, and then they will enter the eye, right? In the case of contact lens, that's not the case. Contact lens is in the contact with the cornea, and the lens, cornea, and there is a thin layer of tear film between the contact lens and the cornea. All three of them, I repeat once again, in the conventional glasses, the glass, then there is air, and then the cornea. Whereas in the contact lens, there is contact lens and the cornea, and there is a tear film between the two. All those three things have same refraction, same refractive index, and therefore there is no additional refraction that happens in the case of contact lens. So, that's an advantage of contact lens over the conventional glasses. The size of the image is slightly reduced in these conventional glasses, but not in the contact lenses. Third point is the field of vision gets restricted with the conventional glasses. Look, there is a border to these conventional glasses, and therefore the light rays will get obstructed. So, field of vision gets slightly constricted in the case of these glasses, but not in the case of contact lens. Contact lens moves with the eyeball, and since it does not have any border, so no constriction of the field of vision. Contact lenses can also be used to treat certain conditions like irregular shape of the cornea, keratoconus, or any such condition. The contact lenses can be useful. They are in contact with the cornea, so they may cause regularization of the shape of the cornea. So, certain conditions, the contact lens are preferred or they are used as a treatment. So, contact lenses are therefore thought to be better. Of course, there can be certain disadvantages like they are always in contact with the cornea, they can cause irritation of the eyes and so on and so forth. But that's a quick comparison between contact lens and the conventional glasses. So, these were the errors of refraction and the corrections for the errors of refraction.